If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to become part of this story. This is born of two worlds where reality ends and imagination begins.
The war between humans and the alien race known as the Zethar had finally ended. Smoke still rose from the blackened ground, and the sky was painted red with fire and dust. The battlefield was quiet now, too quiet. Only the wind moved across the ruined machines and broken ships that lay scattered like the bones of giants. Sergeant Daniel Hayes stood in the middle of it all. His uniform was torn and his hands were shaking. He had seen too much, too many bodies, too many screams. For a moment, he almost forgot what peace felt like. The war was over, but inside he felt like it had only just begun. Behind him, a group of alien prisoners sat on the ground, their blue skin covered with dirt and ash. They were tied and guarded by human soldiers. Some were young, some old, and all looked beaten and afraid. The humans had won, but victory didn't look like triumph, it looked like exhaustion. Then came the call, the desperate call. A commander's voice echoed through the radio. "Soldiers, the war is done. As a reward, each of you may choose one of the captured aliens for study or service." The word sent a cold wave through the camp. Everyone turned to look at the prisoners. Some soldiers laughed cruelly. Some looked uncertain. It was a strange order, and no one understood what it truly meant. Daniel froze. He didn't like the sound of it. To choose a living being as a reward, it didn't sit right with him. He looked at the faces of the aliens. They were scared, trembling, whispering in their strange language. They didn't know what would happen next. Then his eyes fell on her. Among the prisoners sat a girl who didn't fit with the others. She was larger, round-faced, her blue skin darker than the rest. While others cried or begged, she just sat quietly, staring at the ground. Her orange hair was tangled and covered in dirt, but there was something peaceful about her, something that didn't belong in a place like this. The other aliens avoided her. Even among her own kind, she seemed alone. "Pick one," shouted a soldier nearby. "You fought hard, Hayes, you earned it." Daniel didn't move. He hated this game. But then his commander appeared, Colonel Briggs, tall, cruel, with sharp eyes that cut through the smoke. "Well, Sergeant?" Briggs asked. "You've been one of our best. Make your choice." Daniel swallowed hard. He didn't want any of them, yet something deep inside told him that walking away would haunt him forever. He looked again at the alien girl, the one others mocked for her size, her silence, her difference. And before he even realized it, the words left his mouth. "I'll take her." The camp went silent. The laughter stopped. "Her," Briggs said, almost laughing. "The fat one? Are you serious, soldier?" Daniel stood firm. "Yes, sir." Some soldiers whispered, others smirked. One man muttered, "He's gone soft." But Daniel didn't care. He didn't know why he chose her, only that something about her eyes felt human. Briggs gave a short nod, amused. "Fine, Sergeant, she's yours, but don't come crying when she bites." The order was set. The girl was released into his custody. As Daniel walked her away from the camp, he noticed her trembling hands, her quiet breathing. She didn't speak, didn't even look at him. Her steps were heavy but careful, like someone used to walking on broken glass. They reached an old truck by the edge of the field. Daniel stopped and offered her water. She looked at it, confused. Then slowly she took it, her long fingers brushing his hand for a moment. Her skin was cold. Her eyes, a deep violet, lifted toward him for the first time. There was fear there, but also something else. Something sad. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. She just whispered something in her language, a sound, almost like Rollin. "Rollin," Daniel repeated awkwardly. She blinked, as if surprised he tried to say it. In that small, quiet moment, the war felt far away, but peace never lasts long. As night fell, the radio crackled again, a desperate voice on the other end. "Command to all units, unknown energy detected near Sector 12. Not human, not Zethar." Repeat, "Not Zethar." Daniel looked up. Sector 12 was less than a mile away. Then Rollin suddenly stood up, her eyes wide, her breathing fast. She pointed toward the dark horizon, and for the first time she spoke in broken English. "They coming?" Daniel froze. "Who's coming?" But she didn't answer. Instead, she looked terrified, as if she knew something even the humans didn't. The radio screamed again. Static. Then silence. Daniel gripped his rifle. The night around them was too quiet now. Even the wind had stopped. And somewhere in that silence, far beyond the field, a strange blue light began to rise into the sky. Rollin whispered again, her voice trembling, "Not all Zethar lost, some waiting." Daniel's heart raced. The war wasn't over after all, and his choice, the fat one, the quiet girl, might be the only reason he would live long enough to understand why. The night grew darker around the field. The blue light in the distance was fading, but the fear it left behind stayed heavy in the air. Daniel sat near the campfire with Rollin, the alien girl he had chosen. He didn't know why he picked her. Maybe it was pity. Maybe it was something else, something deeper he couldn't explain. Rollin sat quietly, her knees pulled close to her chest. The firelight danced across her skin, showing small silver scars that shimmered like tiny stars. She looked tired, but not weak. There was a strength in her silence, the kind that doesn't need words. Daniel offered her a piece of bread. She took it carefully, like someone who hadn't eaten in days. When she tried to bite, she stopped and looked at him first, as if waiting for permission. "It's okay," Daniel said softly. "You can eat." She nodded slowly, then took a bite. For a few minutes there was peace. Just the sound of fire, crickets, and the wind whispering through the grass, but Daniel's mind wouldn't rest. That radio message, not human, not Zethar. It didn't make sense. Who else could it be? He looked at Rollin again. She seemed nervous. Her violet eyes kept darting toward the horizon. "You know something," Daniel said quietly. She froze, her hands still, then she shook her head. "You said they're coming. Who are they?" This time she looked at him, her voice low and shaky. "Not Zethar, old ones, before war." Daniel frowned. "Before the war. You mean older than your kind?" She nodded. "Old ones make us, then forget us." Her words sent a chill down his spine. Made us. Was she saying her species was created by something even more powerful? He wanted to ask more, but a sharp voice interrupted from behind. "Talking to your pet now, Sergeant?" It was Private Cole, one of the younger soldiers, holding his rifle with a smug grin. "Didn't think you'd actually take that thing. She doesn't even look useful." "Go back to your post," Daniel said flatly. Cole smirked. "Or what? You gonna protect her? You really think she's special?" Before Daniel could answer, Rollin suddenly stood. Her eyes glowed faintly, not bright, but enough to make Cole step back. The ground beneath her feet seemed to hum softly, like something alive. "Stay back," Daniel warned, raising a hand toward both of them. Rollin closed her eyes, and for a second the hum grew louder, then stopped. She sat down again, trembling, whispering something under her breath in her language. Cole looked pale. What the hell was that? Daniel didn't answer. He didn't know, but one thing was clear: Rollin wasn't just another alien prisoner. There was something inside her, something dangerous. When Cole left, Daniel turned to her again. "You need to tell me what's happening." Rollin looked at him, tears welling in her eyes. "I not want war again, I promise." "War again?" he repeated. She nodded, pointing to her chest. "They find me, they start again." Daniel leaned closer. "Who will find you?" Rollin whispered one word: creators. That word echoed in his mind long after she stopped speaking. The old ones, her creators, were coming back. But why now, and why was she so afraid? Suddenly, the radio crackled again. "Command to all units, Sector 12 lost contact. Unknown signals spreading fast. Stay alert." Daniel's heart sank. Sector 12, the same place as before. Rollin's hands clenched. She whispered in fear, "They hear." Moments later, a blinding blue flash lit up the night. The earth shook. From the distance came a strange sound, like thunder mixed with metal tearing apart. Soldiers shouted, running toward the trucks. "Everyone move," Briggs' voice roared. "Form defense line, now." Daniel grabbed his rifle and looked at Rollin. "Stay here." But she shook her head. "No safe, they come for me." He hesitated, then nodded. "Stay close." They ran through the chaos together. The night sky was burning with strange lights. When they reached the hilltop, Daniel froze. Dozens of glowing shapes were descending from the sky, not ships, but beings. They moved like smoke and light mixed together, forming shapes too complex for human eyes. The air itself seemed to tremble. Soldiers opened fire, but the bullets passed through the glowing figures like mist. One by one, the men fell not from wounds, but from their weapons freezing, their hearts stopping. Daniel watched in horror. "What are they?" Rollin whispered. "Punishers, they come when we escape." "Escape from what?" he demanded. "From them," she said, her voice breaking. "They make us, test us, then kill us." Daniel couldn't believe it. The Zethar, the so-called enemy, were victims of something else, something far worse. One of the glowing beings turned toward them. It moved without sound, without form, a shifting storm of blue fire and light. Rollin stepped in front of Daniel. Her eyes glowed bright now, her hands raised. The air rippled. The creature paused, almost recognizing her. Then, with a sound like a heartbeat, it vanished into the night. Everything went silent. Rollin fell to her knees, breathing hard. Daniel rushed to her side. "What did you do?" "I told it, I still obey," she whispered weakly. "So they not kill you?" Daniel stared at her. "You saved me?" She nodded faintly. "You choose me, I protect." Her voice faded and she collapsed in his arms. In the distance, the lights began to fade too, but Daniel knew this wasn't over. Whatever these creators were, they now knew where she was. And if they were powerful enough to create life, they were powerful enough to destroy it too. As dawn broke over the battlefield, Daniel looked at the sleeping alien girl beside him, and for the first time, he realized he hadn't saved her. He had joined her fight. The morning after the attack was quiet, too quiet. The field that once roared with gunfire now lay under a blanket of smoke and silence. Burnt metal and black dust filled the air. The camp was gone. The soldiers were gone. Only Daniel, Hayes, and Rollin remained alive. Daniel stood beside the wreck of a transport truck, his rifle hanging loose in his hand. He still couldn't believe what he had seen. Those glowing beings, whatever they were, had erased an entire platoon in minutes. No explosions, no blood, just light and then nothing. He looked down at Rollin. She was still unconscious, her chest rising slowly. Her skin shimmered faintly like starlight caught in water. Whatever power she used last night had drained her completely. Daniel knelt beside her. "Wake up, please," he murmured. After a long silence, her eyes opened. They glowed dimly before fading back to violet. She looked around, confused, then at him. "They gone?" she whispered. Daniel nodded. "For now." Rollin sat up weakly. "They will come again, they always come." "Then we need to move," Daniel said. "We can't stay here." He helped her stand. Together they walked through the ruins, past broken machines and scattered armor. The once mighty human base was nothing more than a graveyard. As they reached the outer ridge, Daniel saw the horizon, vast plains stretching toward the mountains. Somewhere out there, maybe, there was still a safe zone, but his radio was dead. No signal, no command, no hope. "Where do we go?" he asked. Rollin closed her eyes, listening to something only she could hear. "North, there is silence there, the quiet between stars." Daniel frowned. "What is that, a place?" She nodded slowly. "Old place. Hidden, my people build before war, not many know." He studied her face. She wasn't lying. Whatever this quiet was, it might be their only chance. Hours later they walked through open fields, avoiding the roads. The sky above them turned pale gray, heavy with rain. Daniel's boots sank into the mud, his mind heavy with questions. Finally he asked, "Rollin, what are you?" She looked at him, silent for a moment. "I am made," she said softly. "Not born. Made by the creators?" "Yes, they build us to serve. Soldiers, workers, dreamers, we forget why, then they forget us." Daniel tried to understand. "So you were created to fight?" She shook her head. "To learn, to feel, but feeling made us dangerous." Her voice cracked, almost like a human's would. Daniel could see pain behind her calm face, years of fear, of loss, of running. They stopped by an abandoned farm. The buildings were broken, but a few walls still stood. Daniel decided to rest there for the night. He lit a small fire inside the barn, its orange glow soft against the cold. Rollin sat close, watching the flames. "Fire, same on every world," she murmured. Daniel smiled faintly. "Yeah, I guess it is." He wanted to ask more, but exhaustion caught up with him. His eyes grew heavy. Before he drifted off, he saw Rollin still staring into the fire, her reflection flickering in her eyes like galaxies. Later that night, a strange humming woke him. Low and rhythmic, like distant thunder, he opened his eyes. The barn was dark except for faint blue light spilling from Rollin's hands. She was standing in the middle of the floor, her eyes closed, whispering words that didn't sound like any language he knew. Symbols of light floated in the air around her, circles, lines, and stars forming patterns. "Rollin," he whispered. She turned slowly, startled. The symbols vanished in an instant. "You should sleep." "What were you doing?" Her voice was calm, almost sad. "Calling the stars. They listen when I am alone." Daniel frowned. You mean praying? She hesitated, maybe, or remembering. He didn't press further, but deep down he knew whatever she was doing, it wasn't prayer, it was connection, communication. The next morning they continued north. The world around them looked emptier every mile. No birds, no animals, only the wind. Then on the fourth day they saw it. A tall, black structure rising from the ground like a tower of glass. It shimmered faintly, bending the light around it. Rollin stopped, her face pale. The quiet between stars, she whispered. Daniel stared. This is your people's place? She nodded. It hides us from them, but it needs blood, mine. He stepped closer. What do you mean? She looked at him, eyes wet. Door only open for the maid. I open, you enter. Promise if I fall, you close it behind. Daniel's throat tightened. I'm not leaving you. Rollin smiled faintly. You already choose me once. Don't choose wrong again. Before he could answer, the ground began to tremble. A sound like a storm filled the air. Blue lightning cracked across the sky. They found us, she whispered. Daniel raised his weapon, scanning the sky. The light was returning, the same blue fire from before, twisting in the clouds. Rollin stepped toward the tower, her body glowing. The door of light opened before her, humming softly. She turned back to him. Run when it closes. Promise me. Rollin, but before he could reach her, a beam of blue energy shot from the clouds and struck the ground nearby, throwing him off his feet. When he looked up, Rollin was standing inside the doorway of the tower, her body surrounded by swirling light. The creators were descending again. Daniel crawled forward, shouting her name, but the light swallowed her whole. The door closed. The tower went silent. And for the first time since the war ended, Daniel felt truly alone. The tower stood like a frozen flame against the gray sky. Daniel could still feel the last pulse of blue light in the air. It hummed inside his chest like a second heartbeat. Rollin was gone. The door had closed, leaving behind only silence and a faint shimmer on the ground where she had stood. He pressed his hand to the tower's surface. It was smooth and cold, but when he leaned closer, he could hear something, a low whisper, like breathing from inside. Rollin, he called out. No answer. He stepped back, scanning the field. The horizon was empty, but the storm clouds above were starting to swirl again. If the creators were coming, he couldn't stay here. Yet his feet refused to move. Something about this place felt alive. Suddenly, the tower pulsed once, and a narrow line of light spread open like a scar. Daniel hesitated only a second before stepping inside. Inside the tower, the interior was vast, endless, glowing with silver mist and floating shapes that shifted like liquid glass. There were no walls, no floor, only energy flowing through invisible paths. He looked down at his boots, the ground shimmered under him, yet held his weight. This isn't possible, he whispered. Then a voice echoed, soft, familiar. Daniel, his heart froze. It was Rollin. He turned and saw her. She was standing at the center of the chamber, her body surrounded by light threads that moved through her skin like rivers. But she looked weaker, pale, trembling. Rollin, he ran to her, but a barrier of light stopped him just a few feet away. She smiled sadly. You came. I hoped you wouldn't. What's happening to you? He demanded. This place feeds on what made us, she said. It remembers pain. He noticed then scars glowing faintly on her arms, her neck, her back. Each mark pulsed like a heartbeat. They hurt you, he said quietly. They made me, she whispered. They left a mark inside every creation, a wound that never heals. It is how they control us. Daniel clenched his fists. Then let me help you. We can destroy this thing. Rollin shook her head. No, you don't understand. The wound is not only in me. It is in the code of every living being they touched, even in your kind. He stared at her. In humans, she nodded slowly. The creators made worlds. Some they shaped with care, others they abandoned. You think humans are free, but freedom is just another design. Her words hit him like a punch. That's impossible. Is it? She asked softly. Why do your wars never end? Why do you build and destroy again and again? The wound is memory. They planted it to keep all life fighting forever. Daniel took a step closer. Then how do we stop them? Rollin closed her eyes. By remembering what we were before the wound. By healing it. The chamber began to shake. The mist turned red. Somewhere above, a crack of thunder echoed, but it wasn't thunder, it was arrival. The return of the creators outside the tower, the sky split open again. Columns of blue fire rained down and shapes began to emerge, not ships this time, but structures. Living machines, they surrounded the tower like guards returning to a temple. Daniel looked up at the shifting ceiling. They're here. Rollin nodded. They know I'm awake. The light around her body grew brighter. Her hair floated as if underwater. Daniel, you must leave now. The door will close again soon. No, he said firmly. Not without you. Please, she whispered. If you stay, they will rewrite you too. He stepped closer, touching the barrier. Then let them try. I didn't fight a war just to watch another one begin. Her eyes filled with tears that shimmered like glass. You still believe choice is real. That is why they fear you. The ground shook harder. Lightning crashed around them, splitting the air. Rollin screamed, clutching her chest. A crack of light opened from within her, a wound glowing white-hot. Daniel pressed both hands to the barrier. Rollin, what's happening? The wound, she gasped. They're trying to take control again, through me. He drew his knife, the same blade he had carried since the first battle, and slammed it into the glowing field. Sparks burst out, burning his arm, but he didn't stop. Daniel, stop, she cried. Not leaving you again, he shouted, pushing harder. The blade cracked the light barrier just enough for him to reach through. He grabbed her hand. The instant their hands touched, a surge of energy shot through both of them. The tower screamed. Images flashed in Daniel's mind, stars being born, cities made of light, creatures kneeling before figures of pure energy. And then darkness. The creators, endless eyes watching him from every corner of space. He pulled back, gasping. They're not gods, he whispered. They're afraid. Rollin looked at him in shock. You saw it? Yes, they fear what they made. For a moment, silence filled the tower. The red mist began to fade. Rollin stepped through the broken barrier and fell into his arms. Her breathing was shallow, her body cold. You broke their chain, she said weakly, but they will not stop. Daniel held her tightly. Then let them come, we'll fight together. She smiled faintly. No, Daniel, you'll teach them what they forgot, mercy. The ground started to crumble beneath them, light spilling out like lava. The tower was collapsing. Go, she said, pushing him toward the opening. I'll hold it. He shook his head, tears in his eyes. You won't survive. She smiled, soft and human. Maybe that's the point. The last thing he heard before the tower exploded into light was her whisper, remember me when the stars go quiet. The world burned blue for 3 full seconds, then went dark. When Daniel opened his eyes, everything was silent except for the soft hiss of the wind through cracked stone. The tower was gone. The field where it had stood was nothing but ash and glass. He pushed himself up, coughing. The air tasted like metal. Around him, the land looked melted, twisted into strange shapes, as if space itself had folded and half forgotten how to return. Then he realized something terrifying. He was glowing. Not brightly, just faint threads of blue under his skin, pulsing slowly with his heartbeat. Rollin, he whispered, but there was no answer. A piece of the tower's crystal lay half buried beside him. He reached for it. The moment his fingers touched the surface, his vision flashed, a memory, not his. Rollin standing inside the tower, light flowing from her chest into his body. Her last words echoing, remember me when the stars go quiet. He dropped the crystal, shaking. Whatever she had done, it wasn't just energy. She had given him part of herself. Returned to base 2 days later, Daniel reached Outpost K-17, a small human base that had survived the last attack. The guards almost didn't let him in. He looked like a ghost, skin pale, eyes faintly glowing. Inside, everything was chaos. Wounded soldiers, damaged ships, commanders shouting orders nobody obeyed. The war had ended weeks ago, but fear had taken its place. When Colonel Briggs saw him, his jaw dropped. Hayes, you were reported dead. Almost was, Daniel said. Briggs eyed him sharply. What happened out there? Daniel hesitated. How could he explain the tower, the creators, or the alien girl who had saved him? He simply said, experiment gone wrong, sir. But Briggs wasn't buying it. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. The scanners picked up something strange when you walked in. Energy readings off the charts. You care to explain that? Daniel's pulse quickened. No idea, sir. Briggs studied him a moment longer. You've always been loyal, Hayes. Don't make me doubt that now. Before Daniel could respond, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the base. A soldier ran in, shouting, "Energy surge," coming from Sector B. They rushed to the control room. The monitors showed something impossible, blue light spreading through the power lines like veins. "What the hell is that?" Briggs barked. Daniel froze. The pattern on the screen, it matched the glow under his skin. The awakening within minutes, the power grid collapsed. Every system flickered. The air filled with a deep hum, the same sound he'd heard in the tower. Soldiers panicked, shouting over the alarms. Daniel's hands started shaking uncontrollably. Sparks of blue energy jumped from his fingertips. "Sir," a technician cried, "the signal's not from outside, it's coming from him." All eyes turned to Daniel. Briggs' hand went to his pistol. "Hayes, step away from the console." "I can't control it," Daniel shouted. The lights exploded, glass shattered, and then silence again. When the smoke cleared, Daniel was standing in the center of the room, surrounded by floating debris frozen in midair. His eyes burned white-blue. "No one moved," Briggs whispered. "God help us, he's one of them." Daniel lowered his hands slowly. "No, I'm still human. Prove it," Briggs snapped. Daniel looked around at the terrified faces of men he had once called brothers. "If I were one of them, you'd all be gone already." He turned toward the window. Outside, storm clouds gathered, spiraling blue. "They're coming back," Daniel said. "And they're not looking for me, they're looking for her." Briggs scowled. "Her? You mean that alien you took?" Daniel nodded. "She sacrificed herself to stop them, but something of her lives in me now, I can feel it." Briggs pointed his gun. "You're infected, soldier. Until command clears you, you're under arrest." Daniel didn't flinch. "If you lock me up, we all die." He looked again at the storm. Inside the thunder, he heard whispers, Rollins' voice mixed with something darker. Then came the explosion. The attack, a blinding beam of blue light struck the base. Walls shattered, soldiers thrown like paper. The creators had found them. Daniel's instincts kicked in. His body moved before his mind did. He raised his hands and the beam split apart, diverted into the ground. The floor cracked open, energy pouring out like liquid lightning. He could hear Rollins' voice echo in his head. "You broke their chain, now break their fear." He shouted to the others, "Run to the tunnels." Briggs hesitated, staring at Daniel. "What are you?" Daniel met his eyes. "The only chance you've got." He turned back toward the storm and unleashed everything, light blasting from his body, colliding with the incoming energy. The entire sky lit up white. Aftermath, when the dust settled, the base was gone. Only the underground shelters remained intact. Briggs and the surviving soldiers climbed out hours later. The field was quiet again. Daniel was nowhere to be found. All that remained was a crater glowing softly with blue fire, and in the center, his dog tag, half melted, pulsing faintly. Briggs picked it up. Etched on the back were 3 words burned into the metal: "She still lives." He looked at the sky, where faint trails of blue light disappeared into the clouds. Somewhere up there, something had awakened, and Daniel Hayes was no longer just human. The night sky above Earth was no longer black. It pulsed with lines of faint blue light, like veins spreading across the universe. From the ruins of Outpost K-17, the survivors watched in silence. The storm had ended, but the glow in the heavens stayed, moving like something alive. Some said it was radiation. Others whispered it was a sign that the gods of the stars had returned. Only one man knew the truth: Daniel Hayes. The awakening, he woke deep underground. The air was cold. The ceiling cracked with faint blue lines that pulsed when he breathed. His body felt heavy, but his mind clear, clearer than it had ever been. When he tried to stand, he realized something was different. His reflection in a piece of broken glass showed eyes no longer human, a pale violet glow, calm and endless, just like hers. "Rollin," he whispered. Then her voice came soft, echoing from inside his mind. "You survived." He froze. "You're alive?" "Not alive, remembered. Part of you now?" Her tone was calm, but filled with sadness. "When the tower broke, my energy joined yours. You carry what remains of me and what I carried from them." He felt a pulse inside his chest, the same blue shimmer that once glowed beneath her skin. "What did you carry?" he asked. "Truth," she said. "The memory they erased." Echoes of the past in a rush of light, images filled his mind. He saw a world of crystal and light, not built by machines, but grown by thought. The creators walked through it like gods, beings of energy and logic. They forged species to serve them, builders, dreamers, warriors, and among them were the Zethar, Rollins' kind, made not to fight but to feel. They made us to understand emotion, her voice explained, because they could not. He saw Rollins' people laughing, singing, painting stars in the sky until the creators noticed something dangerous. The Zethar began to love, and love made them question obedience. So they punished us, Rollins said. They burned our memories, changed our shapes. The ones who refused to fight were called failures. The others became soldiers. The images showed war, the creators watching as their own creations destroyed one another. Entire worlds burned, all because one species dared to feel. Daniel clutched his head. They created pain to control you, and you, she said quietly. Humans are not their first children, you are the last. The human design. Daniel's heart pounded. You're saying the creators made us too? Yes, she said. But you are different, you were made without memory. They wanted to see what life would do when it forgot where it came from. He staggered back, shaking his head. That can't be true. You think your wars, your greed, your endless hunger for meaning, they are accidents. The blue light in the walls flickered like breathing. The wound lives in you too, Daniel, but it can heal. That is why they fear you, because you can choose. He stood there in silence, his heart torn between fear and defiance. If humans were creations too, then everything, history, faith, victory, was just another experiment. But if Rollin was right, he could be the first to break it. The return signal suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the chamber. Daniel looked up. The roof glowed bright blue symbols forming across the surface, the same ones he saw in the tower. They found us, Rollin said. A voice thundered through the air, deep and emotionless. Subject 04-67, terminate connection. Daniel's mind burned. The voice wasn't heard with ears, it was inside him. He fell to his knees, clutching his head. They can see through you now, Rollin warned. You must sever the link. How? He gasped. Go north, she said weakly, to the city of glass, the first landing site. There the core sleeps. Destroy it and the chain will end. The walls began to shake. Machines buried deep underground came to life, ancient drones rising from the dust, their eyes glowing the same blue as his. He grabbed his rifle, though he no longer needed it, and fired at the ceiling. The chamber cracked open, light pouring down from the night sky. He leapt through the debris as the machines chased him. Outside, the stars pulsed like beating hearts. The edge of humanity by dawn, Daniel stood on a cliff overlooking the broken world. He could see the ruins of human cities below, silent, empty, but alive with faint blue veins running through the streets. They're not invading, he realized aloud. They're awakening. Yes, Rollin whispered. Every planet they touched is waking up. The creators are returning to reclaim what they left behind. He clenched his fists. Then we fight back. Not with guns, she said. With memory, with choice. They cannot control what remembers love. Her words echoed as the sun rose, painting the land in gold and blue. For the first time since the war, Daniel smiled. Then I'll remind them. He looked up at the sky, at the faint shimmer of shapes moving through the clouds, and whispered, Let's finish what you started, Rollin. The wind carried her voice, faint but warm. The wind howled across the wastelands, carrying dust and whispers of a dying world. Daniel Hayes walked alone, guided only by the faint blue veins glowing under his skin. Each step echoed in the empty silence, the same silence that once followed every war. Ahead of him, rising from the horizon like a broken mirror, was the city of glass. No map had ever shown it. No human eye had ever seen it. It stood halfway between the earth and the stars, built not of stone, but of light frozen in time. Rollin's voice stirred gently inside his mind. You are close. Daniel's breath came out in cold mist. Then it ends here. Or begins, she whispered. The city of glass, as he entered the city, the air changed. Sound disappeared, even the dust hung motionless. The streets shimmered with memories, fragments of light forming faces, voices, echoes of 1,000 species that once served the creators. Some looked like humans, some like Rollin, all lost. At the heart of the city stood a massive sphere of light, the core, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat, the source of every creation. The place where the wound began, Daniel stepped closer. The ground rippled beneath his boots, alive and watching. A voice spoke, not in his ears but inside his bones. Cold, infinite. Subject 04-67, design error confirmed, termination authorized. The light around the core shifted, forming shapes, beings of pure energy. The creators, they had no faces, only outlines of power. When they spoke, the entire city trembled. You were made for conflict, for balance through war. You cannot exist outside your design. Daniel stared up at them. Then why do I feel what you never could? Silence. Emotion is corruption. You are infected. He smiled bitterly. If caring is infection, then maybe that's what life really is. The ground cracked. Energy surged toward him like a wave, but he didn't move. His body glowed brighter, not from the creator's power, but from within. Roland's voice filled the air, no longer just in his mind. He is not infected, he is awake. Her light appeared beside him, her shape forming from particles of blue fire. Not a ghost, not a projection, something more. A memory turned real. Daniel looked at her, eyes wide. Roland, she smiled softly. You carried me this far, now we carry them all. The final memory, the creators surrounded them. You cannot defy the origin, they thundered. Roland turned to Daniel. Show them. He didn't understand until he felt it. The connection between them, alive and burning, the memory she gave him. He reached out his hand. Their lights intertwined, human and Zethar, creation and creator, love and logic, merging into something new. Suddenly, the city came alive. The walls flashed with memories, humans laughing. Zethar singing. Worlds growing, collapsing, rebuilding. Every species the creators had ever abandoned, rising again inside the light. Roland's voice echoed across the city. You wanted balance through control, but life balances itself through compassion. The creators screamed, not in pain, but in confusion. Their perfect code was unraveling, rewritten by something they never understood. Daniel stepped forward. You gave us the wound, we give you the cure. He raised his hands, and the light from both of them burst outward. The core cracked open like glass under pressure, spilling waves of golden blue energy into the sky. The stars themselves began to shimmer, one by one turning from cold white to warm light. What have you done? The creators cried. Roland's voice answered softly. We remembered. The rebirth, the explosion spread across the world, not destruction, but awakening. Every human, every creature, every cell that had once been part of the creator's design now glowed faintly for a single moment. Memories returned, flashes of kindness, sorrow, beauty. The wound was healing. Daniel fell to his knees, exhausted. Roland knelt beside him, her form flickering. You did it, she said, her voice trembling. He looked up at her. We did it. Her light began to fade. My time ends here, but you will live for both of us. He grabbed her hand, the glow between them fading. Stay, she smiled, warm and human. I'll always be here. Her body dissolved into a burst of starlight, spreading into the sky above. For a long time, Daniel just watched, tears falling silently. When the last light disappeared, he whispered, Goodbye, Roland. Epilogue years later, they would call it the awakening. Humanity changed. The blue veins in the sky faded, replaced by stars brighter than before. No one remembered exactly what happened, only that something inside every human heart felt lighter. And on quiet nights, when the world went still, some said they could hear a soft hum in the air, like a heartbeat between the stars. High above the earth, a new star glowed faintly violet, a reminder of a soldier and an alien girl who taught the universe what it truly meant to feel. The end.
If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to become part of this story. This is born of two worlds where reality ends and imagination begins.